Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, in the Hoosier Media Network studios, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Oh, yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. It is your weekend edition of the Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hoosier. Hey, happy 2026. We are officially back. We're ready to rock and roll. Hit that reset button and let's start a whole new year. And boy, I'm thinking that we start off the year with kind of a bang, so to speak, or at least Venezuela would say it's kind of a bang, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We have a lot to talk about, and I am so glad to be with you. As usual, this is the Voice of Reason. My name's Andy Hoosier, broadcasting out of the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, in the Hoosier Media Network studios. But we are broadcasting all over this great nation. So many great affiliates doing our thing. We'll do it live, like we do every single weekend. Dave, our great producer down in Dallas, welcome aboard. And we have, to kick off the new year, first off, hopefully you've had a great holiday. You have a day or two left to enjoy and soak up as much of the holiday as you can before you get back into the groove. It's tough, I know, but it's okay. Before we go any further, as we start off the new year, we have a brand new affiliate on the show, and welcome aboard. We have to give a shout out to our great friends down there, Super Talk 1400 KAOK. Conservative Talk for Southwest Louisiana. Really excited. Okay, now, friends in Louisiana, Dave, you're close to Louisiana. Is it Louisiana or is it Louisiana? I think that's more of a, you think it's Louisiana. All right. I'm asking you, for the new followers down there, welcome to becoming a new Hoosier-holic. Is it Louisiana? Is it Louisiana? I want to hear from you, but welcome aboard Super Talk 1400 KAOK. You guys broadcasting every Sunday for the program, and we love to have you aboard. We are now covering, for those that don't know, we are now everywhere except for in Florida. We cover the entire Gulf of America, starting in Houston, Texas, all the way to Beaumont, Texas, Louisiana now, Mississippi, and Mobile, Alabama. We just cover the entire area. So we love that. We dominate down in Southern America, and we love you guys to death. All right, bottom of the hour, we have Daniel Greenfield on the program, the David Horowitz Foundation, or the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and we'll chat about his book, With Domestic Enemies, as we talk about the Somali concerns, the Somali fraud that's happening in the country. Also, programming note for you, we have, we've been working on this a lot behind the scenes. We have some new video feeds. So if you go to our website, HoosierReason.com, or you go to our social media at Hoosier Reason, we are now broadcasting in 4K high definition, baby. We have been revamping the studio, and welcome aboard. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Pretty cool. So we've been working hard behind the scenes during the holidays. We wanted to launch it for the new year, and this is the trial and error. So if the video is a little strange, we're still working it out, but I think it's working pretty well. I think it's doing it. So very cool. If you want to go check that out, you can on any of our social media at Hoosier Reason. Can we just say we're starting off the new year in style? President Donald Trump and I am so glad that we are live on the weekends, because we're one of the first ones to be able to cover this in the entire nation with the big story of the weekend, man.
What's trending today?
And that is, of course, the Trump administration announcing first thing on Saturday morning that we now have Nicolas Maduro in captivity. He is on a plane, and I've seen the videos. It looks like he's in an Oculus situation. He's got the face mask on. He's got the sound barriers on. He was on a military plane flying up to New York. We are now charging him as a narco terrorist, man. And that is, again, one more time, can we just say winning on that one? Winning. Because I think that's a big victory for us. The Trump administration not messing around. No long-term conflicts, no long-term wars. In, out. We got the dictator. We've been blowing up their boats. We've been stopping the drugs coming in, which has been a huge victory. Overdoses of drugs been on the massive decline over the past 12 months. I think that's a great win for us to kick off the new year as well. And now we have a narco terrorist in captivity that we've been looking for a very long time after the Trump administration made that announcement first thing this weekend.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning effective and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed.
All right, so military back in action, man. No long-term wars, no military-industrial complex. We're in, we're out. We got her done. We have Nicolas Maduro. And have you seen the videos and the pictures on social media right now with the Venezuelan people? They have already toppled the statue of Nicolas Maduro. They've already toppled much of the pictures of him on the sides of the buildings and taken down all of the portraits. They're done. They're celebrating in the streets. We have now saved the Venezuelan people from dictatorship in that nation, and they're already celebrating winning. That's big news. Now, on the other flip of the coin, Democrats are really angry about it. In fact, according to the headlines this weekend after the announcement, we have Hakeem Jeffries, we have Chuck Schumer that's out there demanding that the Trump administration reach out to the Gang of Eight in Congress to try to explain what exactly that they're doing and why Congress did not give any type of okay or green light or understanding of what was going on with this operation before it actually happened, which, according to Marco Rubio, we didn't have to do that.
Notify any members of Congress in advance.
And Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in
Sure.
it.
We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Boom, that's awesome. So this comes after the executive order from the Trump administration saying that the drug cartels are international terrorists, that they are narco-terrorists, and that we're not going to tolerate this. And with the ongoing conversations we've had with the nation of Mexico and other Central American countries, where many of them have these parallel governments, if not the main government in these nations, of these dictators and these cartel members that are just running the nation. That's their economic growth right there. They sell drugs. That's how these nations make money, and the people live in poverty. And the only opportunities they have are either join the terrorists and join the cartels, or be killed and just kind of live under the radar and not have a business, not have an opportunity for the American dream, so to speak, in Central America, or live their life freely any way that they want to. Now, here's the catch, and here's the really wild part that the Trump administration announced, and maybe we need some more clarification, but apparently now that Nicolas Maduro is out, the vice president of Venezuela has been sworn in, and she's been talking very closely to the Trump administration, to Marco Rubio, to Pete Hegseth, which, by the way, could we just, for a moment, just applaud our Department of War and Pete Hegseth on this? 0 American casualties. A special operation that he said went absolutely phenomenal. It went clean. They've been monitoring this for days. They were waiting for the prime opportunity, and they nailed it. 0 American casualties, very minimal damage in Venezuela when they did this raid. They got Nicolas Maduro as he was going into his bunker, trying to close off and seal himself off. They got him out of there, and they were able to arrest him alive. That's pretty awesome. And what Pete Hegseth said during the press conference pretty much sums up what America was in 2025 and what America stands for in 2026, because I think the statement was pretty awesome.
As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
I mean, that's just awesome. He effed around and he found out. And that's what this administration's about. Now, as we're negotiating with the president of Mexico, as we're negotiating with these other Central American nations, the dictators very angry, Surprisingly, not surprisingly, coincidentally, the Democrats very angry about all this. But as Joe Biden had tried to tweet a couple years ago, that Donald Trump loves being a dictator. He loves getting along with dictators. So Maduro especially, yeah, he can talk tough, but he's never going to do anything with Maduro because he likes him, because dictators like dictators. I mean, that one didn't quite age too well with that tweet that was sent out a few years ago from Joe Biden. This is a sign that we're not messing around. We're not going to allow drugs coming into the nation. We're not allowing cartels to start making an influence at our southern border, to have an impact or influence in the United States. It's done. It's over. And you can either work with us or you can work against us. And we're not going to declare war. It's not going to be a long-term conflict. It's not about the oil either, although the Trump administration did say that we're going to put in oil companies, American oil companies, down in Venezuela. We're going to run the nation, essentially, until they get back on their feet. Because the question is always, after we topple a regime, what's next? We're not going to repeat what we saw in the Middle East before. We're not going to repeat the messes that we had seen as we topple a nation, we overthrow the dictator, and then, well, we're going to try to put in our person and just let it run, and then we walk away, and then it's a complete disaster, and we leave it in ruins. We're not going to do that. We're going to work with them. We're going to have the vice president that's now the president of Venezuela, that's essentially going to kind of sort of answer to Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth on what they're going to do diplomatically, but oil companies are going to come in. We're going to build up their infrastructure. We're going to make the technology bigger and better in the nation. According to Donald Trump, we're going to make Venezuela great again, which, by the way, is an America First agenda if we're stopping the drug lords from bringing drugs into the nation. And we upgrade their technology and infrastructure for oil when we work closely with the energy markets. Why would that not benefit the United States? I'm not for the whole regime change most of the time. But this is one of those situations to where if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to make sure that the people diplomatically get to elect a new leader in the nation of Venezuela. And then we step away. We have a better relationship with them. And they're not importing a buttload of fentanyl and drugs into the nation that's killing American citizens. Because guess what? The overdoses in this nation have been on the dramatic decline over the past year. And that's good. And that's from the blowing up of the boats. So again, look at the results. We have blowing up of cartel members coming across the southern border, trying to bring boats across into the Florida coast. And then all of a sudden now we're seeing a decrease in people overdosing. Can we put two and two together? In Democrats, as we go into the midterm elections for the 2026, you would think that the results are actually a sign of success for the Trump administration. And instead of complaining about it, throwing a fit about whether we're blowing up these boats with drugs coming into the nation or toppling this dictator regime and very angry about it, maybe you should say, wow, there's an opportunity for America First to make America great by not having this threat of cartels and drug lords right on the other side of our border. That would be a win. I don't think they're going to do that because they despise everything that Donald Trump's all about, but that's what they're going to try. Donald Trump apparently says we're just going to run the nation and have the oil investments coming in.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are...
Yeah, we're doing it, making Venezuela thrive again and giving freedom to the people who are out in the streets cheering, toppling the statues of Maduro. It's a great weekend for America. Happy 2026, my friends. We got a lot to get to. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. It's your Patriot on the Prairie. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, it is. What's up, my friends? Welcome back into it. It is the Voice of Reason's Weekend Edition. Great to have you as usual, and Happy New Year for 2026, kicking off the whole new year, my friends. I'm so excited, and you want to know the motto? I think, Dave, this is the motto for America in 2025 and now 2026, and that is, according to Pete Hegseth, F around and find out.
As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime.
Okay, we should, but we can't.
The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out.
I think that's the motto for the Make America Great Again movement, for the America First agenda. We're not going to take any crap from anybody else. And for those that are concerned, we're getting involved in foreign affairs again. Well, you know what? We have threats out there. We're not going to do a long-term war. I despise the military-industrial complex. This is not like the Middle East. I don't like the topping of different regimes, but if they're a threat and they don't stop, we're going to do something about it. And we did something about it, and I think that is the motto of 2026, and I think it's pretty awesome. So well done. By the way, I want to tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. We are kicking off a new year. If you're thinking about changing your service, now's the time to do so and to support a company in the midterm elections, especially in a whole new year where you have an opportunity to support a company that supports the same values and organizations that you do. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. You can keep your number, you can keep your phone, or you can get a new phone and you can get a new number. Does not matter. They have plenty of opportunities for you, and you can go to our website right now at patriotmobile.com/reason, patriotmobile.com/reason. If you start off this new year by using our promo code, you get one month of service absolutely free. Don't miss the opportunity. Go to patriotmobile.com/reason, patriotmobile.com/reason. All right, as we look at the opportunities that we have before us now, the motto of the Trump administration, we're now apparently running Venezuela. Are we now seeing the 51st state of the nation? That's interesting.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
That's what we're all about, baby. Democracy and judicious. We're going to make sure it's done right. We're not going to allow another dictator to come in. We want the people of Venezuela to actually have a voice. And shockingly, not so shockingly, the ones that are against that, the ones that are angry, because, again, you have to kind of go through the filter of what Donald Trump's trying to say, which is we're not taking it over. This is not becoming the 51st state of the nation, although that would be really hilarious. I was hoping for Greenland. I kind of want to go up there, have some nice, cool climate. I was ready for Greenland or Canada to come on board as the 51st state of the nation. Apparently not. That's not going to happen. We're now doing Venezuela. We're going the other direction. So if you want to retire with some Hawaiian t-shirts and a shorts on, then I guess you can do that down in Venezuela. But we're going to go in. We're going to make sure there is no more dictator or cartel that takes over this nation and runs it like they did before. And we're going to give the people the opportunity to make their voice heard and to vote democratically in the nation to decide who their leader is going to be. What's wrong with that? This is not we're going to go into the Middle East and topple a regime and then have them force a constitution that they don't quite understand and try and deal with the whole, George Bush thing of the purple thumbs. Remember the purple thumbs out there? Totally different situation. We're going to go in, build up the infrastructure with the oil companies. We're going to invest in this nation or allow them to reinvest in themselves and give them that opportunity for success. And I think that's a big win for us. What a way to start the year, man. I tell you what, it's never a dull moment with the Trump administration. They never slow down, and that's pretty cool. When we come back, we're going to shift gears. We'll talk about some corruption right here on the home front domestically. The Somali corruption in Minnesota. Daniel Greenfield with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. We'll do that when we come back around the corner. It's your weekend edition of The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back to the program, and we are moving through your New Year's celebration here on the program for your weekend edition. Plenty to cover, especially with this ongoing fraud that we've been talking about up in Minnesota, and it just gets crazier than there. That's what we're going to go to with our next guest on the program. Don't want to waste any time.
Let's go to the Hoosier Media Hotline.
Yeah, been a while since we've had him on the show as well. He is the CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He's also author of his latest book, Domestic Enemies, The Founding Fathers' Fight Against the Left. Really happy to have on here Mr. Daniel Greenfield. Daniel, Happy New Year to you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Good. Appreciate you coming on the show. Happy New Year to you. There's so much to cover here. First and foremost, are we just tipping the iceberg when we expose more about the fraudulent daycare centers in Minnesota and the Somali population and all these government programs? I can only imagine if this is happening in one area, this is happening elsewhere around the country too. How big is this scam actually across the nation, do you think?
The thing about crime, and this applies to crime in general, is it's the dumb criminals, the careless ones, the ones with no self-control who tend to get caught. And when it comes to fraud, that's truer than ever, because really for fraud to get caught, you have to get sloppy. You have to go too far, which is what the Somalis in Minnesota did. They took fraud. They could have gotten away with millions in fraud. They decided to go for billions in fraud instead. They could have gotten away with, getting some kids classified as autistic. They couldn't get away with 1 in 7 Somali kids being classified as autistic. No, they could get away with some food fraud. They couldn't get away with $250 million in food fraud when they were claiming that they were feeding more kids than existed in the entire Twin Cities public school system. So they got out of control. But this is something that is unfortunately going on all over the country. And in bigger parts of the country, richer parts like New York City and California, they're just used to billions of dollars vanishing. That's normal. In California, we had $32 billion in unemployment fraud, including, and this is my favorite, $1 billion being claimed by prison inmates, including 133 inmates on death row who are collecting unemployment insurance.
Golly.
So if it is something happening in Minnesota, if it had been happening in California, New York, we wouldn't even notice it. $9 billion in fraud in California is just pocket change.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. So who's really behind this, Daniel? Is it the Somali population themselves? Are they political leaders in the area, and the Somalis are just used as the pawns in this scheme specifically for this scenario? Who's really behind making these hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars?
Well, there were Somali groups who decided that this entire Minnesota welfare system that Governor Walz boosted was a prime target for manipulation, and they couldn't stop, to a reasonable degree, as I said earlier. That said, this is stuff that is going on in major cities across the country, particularly in the super blue cities that have very generous welfare policies. Yeah. Minnesota went ahead and said that we're going to do culturally sensitive autistic programming. So the Somalis set up their own autistic clinics that didn't even exist. We're going to cover daycare. You hear politicians talk about how we're going to have universal pre-K, we're going to have universal daycare. Well, this is what it actually means. What you end up with in that case is lots of these little community centers popping up and offering daycare, and nobody knows, are there any kids actually going there? Instead of, offering meals through something centralized like the public school system, they start offering meals locally through local contractors, and that's an excuse to print money for crooks.
Yeah. So where do we go from here now that we're starting to expose a lot of it? It's going to take some time to clean up the system, to fix what's been broken, to allow this type of corruption and fraud to actually happen. But will we actually see a lot of people on social media right now angry? They're like, okay, cool, we're exposing all of this fraud and all this waste and all this corruption going on. When will we see justice? When will we see something actually come of this? Daniel, do you think that we're actually going to see some arrests because of this type of fraud?
Now, we've seen some arrests already. There have been criminal cases that have been underway for years, including one case that led to convictions in which one of the defendants tried to bribe a juror with a six-figure bribe in cash just left at their doorstep. So we've had this going on, but the bottom line is it's the tip of the iceberg. Billions of dollars are not stolen by dozens of people. So they brought in a lot of people from the community. They had complicity in it. We don't know how far it goes, but we do have a tape of Attorney General Keith X. Ellison actually talking to one of the fraudsters and promising to help with their issues.
Yeah.
Does it go all the way up to Governor Walz? Well, we don't have a smoking gun for it. The bottom line is there was a lot of suspicion. We're talking about cases that really are going back in some cases to 2015. There were already raids in 2015. They busted a few of these guys, and then they let them off with a slap on the wrist. They dropped all criminal charges and just gave them a 2-year ban from being government contractors. 2-year ban. So,
yeah, I'm sure they lost. Yeah, I'm sure they learned their lesson from those slap on the wrists for sure. We're talking with Daniel Greenfield as we talk about some of the ongoing fraud, not just with the Somali population, but around the country. So here's the response from Democrats that we're just a bunch of white supremacists that are being normalized in society, that we're picking on the Somali population, and how dare we do that? Is that going to really be the appropriate response by the Democrats? And playing the identity politics, playing the victimhood there, is that really going to win them going into the midterm elections when they're literally defending fraud in the system?
It's definitely an issue because people hate fraud, and the more of the fraud that we expose, the more we can actually make an argument for shutting down a lot of these programs. DOGE was very popular. It was one of the more popular things that the Trump administration was doing. It's a shame that it didn't really have the follow-through that it needed, but I think this may actually be a shot in the arm for a sequel to this, for taking a look at a lot of these block grants that we've been handing out to states, that states have been handing out to a lot of these local nonprofits, and to say, wait a minute.
Yeah, I really hope so. I hope that's the opportunity for us here. So here's the bigger question. Will Republicans do it? Right now, we're trying to get a budget underway at the federal level. We still have DOGE that's out there trying to reform a lot of the social programs right now as well, or at least try and find some of the fraud, which they're still working on behind the scenes. Do Republicans have the backbone to actually cut out a lot of these programs?
That's the question. And, the Republican House majority is very narrow. But, it's what we have until the midterms, at which point it's very likely to disappear entirely. So, there's a time to do anything. It's time to do it now, and you have to pick the right battles. Right now, the Republican House polls is very unpopular. If it actually starts taking some of this on, if it starts making Democrats accountable for this, for wanting to fund fraud, I think they can actually win an argument.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to your book for just a moment. Domestic enemies. Who are the domestic enemies right now? Obviously, we're battling an ideological war, a war of the mind in the United States. The young generation that's coming up, very impressionable from both sides of the aisle. Turning Point USA doing a great job, even after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, of trying to win over the young generation. The David Horowitz Freedom Center, which is what you guys work on, trying to show conservative principles in this nation. But right now at this moment, what is the biggest threat to the United States and to American culture?
The left has been a problem since the very beginning. And, we use the left, it's a cliche, but we're talking about radical movements that really believe in eliminating most of what makes America work, replacing it with a totalitarian system, one that is going to create a perfect society by eliminating, minor things like private property, family, and all the little stuff. So this is what we've been fighting all along. But on top of that, we've also had a major problem because the left, around about 120 years or so ago, decided that the way to actually take over America was through mass migration, was through bringing in as many immigrants as possible and radicalizing them as quickly as possible. That's not necessarily the fault of the people coming in, but the left has been weaponizing them and using them. And, things reached a head when we were getting in 3-4 million people a year under Biden. This was deliberate demographic transformation, especially targeted in many cases at red states. So a major real issue right now is we need to roll back that power of the left to destroy America. We need to roll back this kind of mass migration. It's completely unsustainable, and it's wrecking the country, and it's trashing our economy as well. So, and on top of that, we've got Islamic terrorism popping up, and less violent forms of it, like the Somali fraud by groups that are coming into this country, don't like America very much. I was watching Black Hawk Down last night, and we took a look at that, the battles in the streets of Mogadishu, and decided we need this in Minneapolis, we need this in America. So we need to rethink a lot of that, and we need to reduce the ability of the left to transform and wreck this country.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Last question for you, Daniel, and I appreciate your time very much. But I thought after the elections last year, the Democrats would maybe learn their lesson, do a little bit of a self-reflection, realize they've gone too radical, come back to the middle a little bit, or at least attempt to, or at least pretend to, in order to win over the American people. In fact, they've gone the other direction. Now we have Zoran Mamdani. We have some crazy radicals hijacking that party. When will, or if, do you think at all, Democrats will learn their lesson and realize that the radicalism that they're pushing, the further left they go, the less popular that they become? Will they ever learn that lesson?
So after the election, some Democrats, including Governor Gavin Newsom, made some tentative steps they said, having boys competing against girls in sports is too much. So, they decided we're going to show we're moderate by drawing the line there, because they did the polling and they saw it was remarkably unpopular among Americans. And that's pretty much all they did. Now they're backing off those positions already. Because the bottom line is, and this is the systemic problem with the Democrats, is they no longer believe in anything. I was seeing this at ground zero when I was at the Democratic National Convention in 2016, and there was this matchup between Hillary and the Bernie people. And the Hillary people were telling me quietly, those people are crazy, we don't want them. But they themselves really couldn't articulate what the problem with socialism was.
Yeah.
Democrats in the JFK era could have said so. They could have explained what's wrong with socialism. Democrats today just think it's a bad tactic. And when the left wins, like Mamdani won, they see it's a good tactic, and then they go further to the left. So systemically, they crash. Nationwide, they crash. They become unpopular when they're associated with AOC or Bernie. But at the same time, they think that this is the bandwagon to get on because they don't really believe in anything anymore.
It's a crazy time to be alive for sure. Go check it out, DanielGreenfield.org. Also find more information about the David Horowitz Freedom Center as well. Daniel, Happy New Year to you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's going to be a big year. We got to get you back on again soon.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you again. Daniel Greenfield, he's the CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center and author of the book, Domestic Enemies, The Founding Fathers Fight Against the Left. Look forward to getting him back on the show again soon. Got to take a break. We got one more segment left around this hour to wrap things up. The fraud is an interesting one, but what is the stance of the Democrat Party, their platform going into 2026 in the midterm elections? We'll have some fun with that right around the corner here for the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Where Hoosier-holics gather every week. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, it is. What's up? Welcome back into it. Wrapping up this hour of the program. Man, it flies right on by. So much to talk about and so little time to do it. Thanks again to David Greenfield on the program with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. This Somali fraud is only the tip of the iceberg, and it's such an interesting topic because we've known for a very long time that there's been fraud in the system, right? We know that the majority of social programs are kind of like, I always relate it to like a mobster family, right? And that's really what the government is. And they say, hey, you have to operate as a state. You have to operate a certain way if we're going to give you this money for grants or for infrastructure, or for social programs or for Medicare or Medicaid, whatever. We'll give you this money, but you have to operate the way that we want you to operate. And then we had the Biden administration where all these shell companies, essentially, meaning these social programs, came into play saying, hey, we're going to consider you refugees. We're going to consider you asylum seekers. We're going to fly you in intentionally, put you into certain communities, send you a buttload of money, and then you can do whatever you want to with it, and then just kind of do whatever. And we knew what was going on, but then we had a hard time trying to prove it. Our spidey senses were up. We knew it didn't pass the smell test. We just had to figure out how to actually prove it. Well, then we have independent journalists out of all people like Nick Shirley up in the state of Minnesota, going to these daycare centers the last few weeks and doing videos, knocking on their door. Hey, where are the kids at? Now, I get it. It's Christmas break. Okay, cool. At the same time, where are the kids at? It's a daycare. It's not a school. It's a daycare. And the parents supposedly are, I was going to say working, but are they? But no, they're not working. They're on social programs. So why do we need a daycare for a community that's not even working right now because they're on the social programs? And what's the money going to? The billions upon billions of dollars. But have no fear. The mainstream media is here, and they're going to set the record straight, right? They did an expose where they essentially were like, no, these independent journalists making these claims are just wrong. We've done, as CNN, our investigative journalism, and have no fear, CNN and mainstream media is here. Which is why they did an expose just a few days ago.
Going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on, for years.
And why did I show up one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children? They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims. Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Have you seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
As long as they called. Right, Dave? As long as they called and they're like, yeah, it's legitimate. Oh, okay. Well, we did our investigative journalism. We did our job. Thank you very much. We did it, and we're so excited about it. Where's my sound effect? There it is.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. We did it. Yay!
As long as they told us it was a legitimate daycare and a legitimate business, then it's fine. The crazy part, when you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, what kind of excuses do you make as a kid? When you're not supposed to have your hand in the cookie jar, you were caught red-handed with your hand in the cookie jar, and then you try to make an excuse on, the dog forced me to do it. He bit me until I put my hand in the cookie jar kind of excuse. Whatever comes to mind. Now, apparently, as we do deeper investigation and we look at the documents at these daycares, then they're like, well, someone robbed us, and now they stole all of the documents about the daycare to where we don't have any of the registrations of the children that are actually at the place, and we just don't know. We had it. It's a legitimate business. They told us, but now we don't have the documentation because someone robbed us. Coincidentally, they didn't steal the money. They didn't steal, technology, things of value. They went in and they went into the nice filing cabinet. They opened it up and they stole all the documents to prove it was a legitimate business. That's what we're at now. Yeah. And to CNN, that's totally fine. Totally fine. This is going to be the tip of the iceberg, because if this is fraudulent in the sums of billions of dollars in the state of Minnesota, where else is this going to go? What other fraud could we see in the Somali communities in other parts of the nation, other states, and not just the Somali population? I don't necessarily care about them. It's about the fraud that we're seeing in social programs. Your taxpayer money that's going to shell companies that we knew were fraudulent, that we couldn't prove, but now we're starting to see. We don't even have to fix the issue. We just have to expose it. We just have to show where this money is going, and the people are going to be distrusting these systems altogether. I said it before, and as we kick off the new year in 2026, I think this is more prevalent than ever. This is the reset that we're about to see, because we are going to say enough is enough. You're not doing what was intended, and the entire Democrat platform of building these social programs and agencies and departments and programs, none of it's working. We're going to figure out a way to do it locally and do it on our own. I'm kind of excited about that. We're back at it before you know it again. Until then, it's your weekend edition of The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hoosier. We'll see you back on the radio soon. Bye.